Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we're zooming in and focusing in on a very important and interesting topic, and that is the setup of addiction to an emotional manipulator. How this is deliberately and calculated set up in the experience of a target, a supply, a quote-unquote victim, someone who they have determined, sussed out, or scoped out to be an individual who they are targeting for needs, whether it's a love relationship, a business relationship, or a familial relationship. There's something that they want. And oftentimes this is set up through creating an addiction in the body, mind, and even in the spirit of those individuals with whom they're targeting. And before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who have recently made a donation to Peace and Harmony channel here, particularly our viewers in Mumbai, India. It is such an honor and privilege to be able to serve you, to discuss and present the topics at hand, and help you to better see and determine some of the dynamics that have gone on and really heal and work through these successfully so you can really understand it and really begin to alchemize this towards the positive in your life. It's very important it's very much a passion of mine to help people in this particular situation. I have a great degree of care for humanity, and especially those people who have been a victim of abuse, particularly emotional and psychological abuse. I think it's a horrific thing and something that I've really dedicated my life to helping others kind of cross the bridge and get to the other side of that. It's a life passion of mine, so thank you so much for your recent donations. And yes, viewers, you can absolutely make a donation to the channel here on the home button of the YouTube, on my YouTube channel, so absolutely, please feel free to do that. And I really want to get focused in and zoom in on really the setting up of addiction within those people who are sussed out and targeted by a malignant narcissist, covert narcissist, or a psychopathic individual. And that is really in the creation of a very lethal, note the word lethal, combination of stress chemicals, fear, as well as desire. A toxic cocktail, if you will, of hormones and neurotransmitters, which are released in the brain and then into the body, into the muscles, into the spine, and that influence the emotions, the decision-making, perception, and judgment and reward of those individuals who are targeted by these individuals. And for one becomes really, as a viewer question and comment was noting earlier, how a sociopathic type of individual, a gentleman, had basically created a feeling of paranoia or suspicion in here, where he was deliberately, in a very deliberate and calculated manner, always referring to the appearance of other women. You know, look at her there. Look how cute. Look how awesome. Look at the figure. Look at this. Lada lada. Okay, so he is basically using a very prominent manipulation tool, which is that of distraction and creating pathological envy. And pathological envy basically begins to have you in a comparison against another individual or another energy, if you will, that is outside of you. So if somebody is then doing this to you, they are distracting, they're creating a pattern interrupt. So when you're supposed to be out with somebody, out for a good time, you know, having some food, having some tea, some coffee, some drinks, you know, enjoying in an event, and then this person constantly doesn't connect with you, but they're always distracting. Look over here, look over there, and they're creating a dynamic where they are essentially directing your gaze, which is taking in images, which are the most powerful motivators of the subconscious mind. Images really resonate and stay within the mind and the brain stem, you know, the older part of the limbic brain that really, you know, is then fed by the eyes. And those images really direct a lot of people's feeling, emotions, and drive them. Whether you've understood this or not, they don't teach you this in kindergarten, but for example, you know, if you look at art, you'll understand the profundity of art and images, or if you've understood advertising or things of that nature. because the images evoke a feeling, and this primes the subconscious brain. So when this is being set up, it's creating a pathological envy that you are not good enough, and furthermore, it's coupled with desire, oftentimes, and then sexual gratification or culmination of a relationship, where then the psychopath will then reward you for following the distraction, following the fear, changing your behavior, and then getting into that sexual communications or what have you, interactions, and furthermore that then your brain really becomes addicted to these heightened levels of awareness. So just like how the other addictive drugs work, and that's why I say it's lethal, because it can cause people to go out of control, and not in a good way, not like I'm happy, but as in a dangerous, risking your life, making rash decisions, erratic, risk-taking sort of behaviors, thought patterns, and feelings. I want to kill myself, I'm this, I'm that, it can become very disastrous. So one of the things I want you to understand is that the brain, that's how it becomes addicted to these very harsh and very scarring heightened levels of dopamine, which is the reward, the stress hormones, the adrenals, the oxytocin, the feel-good, the serotonin. All these get really mixed up, really in a very lethal, intensive, addictive manner. In other words, my fight or flight stress hormones are being released, my cortisol, and now I'm coupling this together with dopamine, the reward system, the pheromones, and all these very strong and toxic, potent chemicals and hormones and chemical reactions are then being set up for psychological warfare, basically, where this person then, it's so intense that the brain becomes addicted to it. So, things like cocaine addiction, heroin addiction, morphines, all these are very highly addictive. In other words, the brain then starts to crave this experience. They crave that heightened, intensive level. And so that's why these people then, you become addicted to this person. You have the feeling, only this person, all I want to do is talk to this person and everything will be okay. All I want to do is hear back from this text and everything will be satisfied. All I want to do is prove this and this for this person, and I'll sacrifice my time, my happiness, my exercise, my food, everything that, is important to you, all of a sudden becomes unimportant. It's creation, of a new sort of addiction, and then the paranoia of not having it, the suspicion of, sort of being hypervigilant and wondering what's going to come next so that you can anticipate it and then block it and defend against it and still win them back. It's like you're constantly trying to work to prevent, loss of this addiction. So if you see this in your relationship, oftentimes people, basically, they originally kind of explain this, they're thinking like, this is what love is, when this is really emotional manipulation. It's a deliberate and calculated setting up of this addiction in power and control and emotional manipulation over the other person. And it is very deliberate because the psychopath can basically dole this out in a very objective manner. In other words, it's just business as normal for them. It's just how they operate. So if they can get you distracted, jealous, looking at these other women, and then pairing together this very strange connection of emotions and sort of assessment of the emotions and how things then take on new meaning in your life, which have nothing to do with reality. Things then become very confused. It's very much a feeling of torture for a lot of people who really are with these people for some time. So if you are in this, begin to say, perhaps there is something awry here. Even though I might really desire this, really begin to use the tool of cognitive reframing and begin to say, you know what, maybe I'm really addicted to this and this is not in my best interest. I'm not able to live my life. I'm not able to consummate really sort of a feeling of foundation in the relationship. I'm not getting really my needs met. There's maybe a big gap or delay in our relationship. I'm not meeting these people at their work, or I'm not meeting their kids, or we're not doing this and this on holidays. We're not, you know, these are some things you need to pay attention to, and don't override because the quote-unquote addiction or this unique and lethal combination of chemicals that you have experienced as a result of an emotionally manipulative relationship. It is peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.